Assalamualaikum warahmatullah. Welcome to Islamic Economic Series. Our topic today is still on topic 3, that is on the Islamic economic system. One of the main objectives of this chapter is to understand the characteristics of Islamic economics, and to achieve that we are making the comparison between the Islamic economic system with the conventional economic system. The following are the criteria of comparison that we will use. For the first criteria, we have discussed about this before. The main focus today is to discuss the difference between the Islamic economic system with the conventional systems based on incentive mechanism. Inshallah, in the other sessions, we will continue with the other two remaining points here. First, let's understand what do we mean by incentives. Incentive is anything that provides a motivation for a particular course of action to be taken. For example, what drives people to work? Definitely, in the discussion, we want to understand the motivations behind certain economic activities. The question that asks what drives people to work is about understanding the incentive of people joining the job market. We can also ask questions such as what motivates people to produce certain goods and services? Or we can ask what motivates people to lend money to other people? What motivates people to give charity? These type of questions can lead us to understand the motivation behind certain behavior, and we want to understand what motivates certain economic behaviors. In general, we can divide incentives into 4 major categories. The first one is material or remunerative incentive. This type of incentive exists when one can expect some form of material rewards in exchange for acting in a certain particular way. This form of incentive is very common, especially in dealing with many economic activities. People do certain jobs because they expect to receive salaries, and that's a form of material incentives. The second type of incentive is moral incentive. It exists when a particular choice of action is regarded as the right thing to do, or admirable, or the failure to act in a certain way is condemned as indecent. Therefore, when a person acts based on a moral incentive, he can expect a sense of self-esteem and an approval or admiration from the community. A person who acts against moral incentives can expect a sense of guilt, condemnation, or even ostracism from the community. The third type of incentive is the spiritual incentives. This incentive is derived from one's faith, religion, or anything that relates to the fulfillment of soul's tranquility. In Islam, spiritual incentive is the main form of incentives. In Islam also, there is a strong link between spiritual incentive and moral incentives. In a secular society, spiritual and moral incentive are two different types of incentives. The fourth type of incentive is coercive incentive. It exists when a person can expect failure to act in certain course of action will result in physical force being used against him or her. For example, coercive incentive includes penalty, fines, imprisonment, and even confiscating properties of those who commit that particular action considered as undesirable to the authority. Once we understand the various types of incentives available, now let's first look at the way how different economic systems make use of the various types of incentives available. The first one, let's look at capitalism. In a capitalist system, it recognizes the importance of material incentives
based on functional distribution.
What do we mean by functional distribution? Functional distribution is about rewards received by the economic agents when they perform certain economic activities according to certain function. One easy way to understand this is by looking at the rewards received by the factors of production. There are 4 factors of production in economics. For labor, the reward is salaries or wages. For land, the reward is the rental payment. For capital, the reward is interest income in the conventional sense. Or in Islamic economics, the reward for capital is profit or loss sharing. And the last form of factors of production is entrepreneur, and the reward to entrepreneurship is profit or loss. Now, from that understanding, we see that in order to get that rewards, we need to participate in certain economic activities. Either we work as labor, or we provide land, capital, or even we become the entrepreneur ourselves. In capitalism, that's the main way how people would be rewarded, incentivized by the system. Note also the second point here. Capitalism considers material well-being as the main objective in life because the system is a secular system. Under this system, materialism is the main objective. Materialism is about considering the material well-being to be the most important goal in life. Success or failure is measured mainly based on the material possession of an individual. I have a separate video to differentiate between the concept of materialism and material pursuit in life. So please check that video. I will provide the link also for that video. Material incentive is also dominant in capitalism because, for the third point here, the system basically is biased towards recognizing private property ownership. Capitalism is a market-driven system, and the system puts individual rights above any rights. The system is built based on the assumption that individual pursues for his or her self-interest. With that philosophy, the system was built to recognize private property ownership more than other forms of ownership rights. And if we observe the development of capitalism, the emphasis on material incentive is very much important. The drive for high gross domestic product promotes consumerism, and through consumerism, it's become a lifestyle of people to spend a lot in order to showcase their material success. That's how people know that you are wealthy, you are successful, and that's become the main driver for people to involve in various types of economic activities in capitalism. Moving to socialism, under a socialist system, public ownership or state ownership of all resources and wealth, and at the same time, the goal of the system to achieve equality in the distribution of wealth and income require proper moral incentive. And this moral incentive is not based on any religious ideology. Communism is an ideology by itself, so the moral incentive under this system is to call people to unite under one ruling authority for the goodness of everyone in the society. So in order to drive people to commit to the goals set by the state, the moral incentive here basically is to appeal to the people to engage in economic activities so that together wealth will be accumulated and the accumulated wealth will be shared equally with everyone in the society. The ideal is if every individual give his or her best efforts to achieve the production of goods and services in the economy, the larger the size of the economic cake will be. So the larger the cake, and when we slice the cake equally, the larger the size for each individual person will get. But if individuals are not committed to the work, the size of the economic cake will be small, and when we slice the cake equally, everyone will get small slices. That's one narrative of how the moral incentive is devised. Another way how moral incentive is devised is through state recognition. State or government would give medals or reward as a form of recognition to individual. Nonetheless, and remember also, when we look at the beginning of socialism, as we have discussed about this before, socialism arises from the unfairness of capitalism. Karl Marx made a call for workers to unite against the capitalist class. It started as a call for moral obligation by individual oppressed people to come together and to fight against the injustices done towards them. So that's the first moral call contributed to the rise of socialism. Once socialism was in place, the practical of the system to be solely based on moral incentive is limited. So then the authority used coercive incentive to achieve the state agenda. Therefore, the history of socialism was tarnished with bloodshed when brutal dictators such as Lenin, Stalin, and few others used military power to mobilize resources in achieving the state agenda. So that's the brief main incentive for socialism. It basically started with moral incentive, and the use of coercive incentive dominated the main history about socialism. What about the incentive mechanism under the Islamic economic system? For Islamic economic system, it blends all the four incentives in their own unique ways. The utmost importance of all the four incentives is the spiritual incentive. Spiritual incentive in Islam is tied to the goal of pleasing Allah Ta'ala. In order for any action to be accepted as amal saleh, it first must be done with the intention for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. The action itself must be something approved by Sharia or shown in the Sunnah of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the action also need to be done sincerely. One of the verse of Al-Quran stated that Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin. Indeed, my prayers, my ibadah, my life and my death are all for the sake of Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Once we do something with this spiritual incentive, it is also tied with the moral incentive. Therefore, spiritual and moral incentive in Islam are tied together. When we do something for the sake of getting the please of God, it is morally correct, and this moral understanding in Islam is permanent. That is, the context of values, akhlaq, is permanent in Islam because it comes from the divine guidance. Doing good in Islam is rewarded. Doing bad actions will be punished. The rewards and punishment can come in this world in terms of material rewards and material punishment. For example, when someone committed a crime and he was caught, he might be imprisoned. That's a form of worldly punishment. On top of that, deeds, either good or bad, will be judged in the day of judgment. And in Islam, we believe in the final consequences either the rewards of the Jannah or paradise or the punishment of the hellfire. These two are the most important types of spiritual incentives in Islam. In order to make all actions accepted by God, therefore leading us to gain His pleas and get into the paradise, we need to make all of our actions into a form of worship. What is unique to Islam is all form of actions can be turned into a form of worship. As I stated earlier, we need to do it for the sake of Allah. We need to ensure that the action is approved by the Sharia, and we need to be sincere in undertaking the action. The final point about incentive mechanism in Islam is that Islam does recognize material rewards. This material reward is not the final goal. Rather, it can be a form of rewards we get in this world, and at the same time, it's also a form of test to us. I have another video that I explain about the position of material reward in Islam, as I mentioned earlier. Please check the video to understand this further. I think that's all for today. Thank you for listening. Wassalam.